Hey people, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Autumn Renee. I'm an adoptive mama. If there's a little bit of an echo in my voice in this video, I'm sorry. I'm having to film in a small room because it's nighttime and Darian's asleep and I have limited places I can film with like decent-ish lighting. So we're just rolling with it. Today's video is going to be about being a nanny and being a foster parent. This is a requested video. I've had several people ask me if I would share my experience about what it was like being a nanny and a foster parent. If you guys have been following along on my channel, you know that I started foster parenting as a single foster parent and working as a full-time nanny, and I am now actually working as a teacher, a middle school teacher, so my career has changed since then, but I was definitely a nanny for like the first year of my foster care journey, so I did want to share kind of what that was like and what I've learned and some kinds of tips and tricks if you are a nanny and thinking about becoming a foster parent. So I hope this video is helpful for you. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you like this kind of content and hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any other videos like this one. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So what is it like being a nanny and a foster parent? There's really pros and cons to this. I can't really say it's great to be a nanny and a foster parent or it's horrible to be a nanny and a foster parent because just like any job, any career choice when you're a parent, there's gonna be a little bit of give and take. For me and my personal journey as a nanny, I think the first thing I would recommend to anyone who is a nanny or thinking about being a nanny and a foster parent is to tell your employers right away. It can be really tempting to kind of wait until you're already licensed or it's more likely you're going to get a placement before mentioning it, but it's so, especially if you're a single foster parent, it's so important to tell them up front because if they're not okay with it or you're like expecting to bring your child to work or something like that, then you're gonna have an employment problem, right? So you need to make sure that you're telling them upfront ahead of time and just being really honest and forward about that and making sure that they're on board with whatever your plan is for foster care. The reason I say that is there's really two ways to go about this if you are a nanny and a foster parent, at least in my experience, or maybe three ways really. The first and most common way is if you're a nanny is to bring your foster child or children with you to work, right? If you're already a nanny, you're already taking care of someone's kids in their home, and you'll just bring your kiddos right along with them and get to be with them all day and your nanny kids' kiddos, and they can play together and you can watch all of them and it's great and grand, right? That's one way to go about it. I will say not all families that you work for are gonna be down with this. Not everybody wants to have more kids in the mix. Not everyone is comfortable having their kids attention kind of split between multiple kids and all of that. So just know that that is not necessarily something that's going to be a guarantee for you. The second way to go about this is to kind of have, I wouldn't even really call this being a nanny so much as maybe like an in-home daycare situation, but if your nanny kiddos come to your house instead of being at their house, then you can like nanny them and your own, foster kiddos all together. So very similar situation to the first time, except for this time they'll be at your house. And then the last option is the option that I ended up having to do because of my situation is continue working as a nanny just like you would at your employment. And then your foster kiddo will go to daycare. And depending on where you live, daycare may or may not be covered. Where I was, they do pay for foster kiddos to go to daycare full time if you're working more than 40 hours a week. So if you're working more than 40 hours a week as a nanny, then in most areas, your child qualifies to go for free to daycare while you work, because at the end of the day, that is your job. Now, I will say that is a little bit weird, and I'm saying that from personal experience because this is what I did. It's a little bit weird to go to work and raise someone else's kiddos while your own foster child is going to daycare. Like, it is just kind of a weird situation, and it's a hard situation. It's hard to be raising someone else's baby and not being to, be with your kiddo. So just know that that is a reality of that situation. So those are really the three ways that I know of that you can be a nanny and a foster parent at the same time. Now, again, there's pros and cons to all of this. So the first option, which is the most common option, is where people want to bring their kiddos with them to nanny. So if you are one of those people, again, you need to ask your employer like right away if they are okay and open for that. And don't just have a conversation and forget about it, because again, I did this and my employers originally told me that they were fine with me bringing him. And then when I finally got placed with a child, they suddenly were like, never mind. So if you have an employer, you need to have it like in writing, in like specific, document exactly what they're okay with, what they're not okay with. what's a scenario where they wouldn't be okay with a child around. They may have certain genders or certain age preferences. And if this is going to be your employer through your fostering journey, like that's important for you to know and to tell your caseworkers, when you're getting your license, about what ages you're willing to take, what genders you're willing to take based on what your employers are okay with you bringing to work. And same thing with behaviors. What if you get a child, if you're fostering older children, if you get a child who's very violent or who screams a lot or tantrums, or, are they going to be okay with all of those things? These are all conversations you need to have. So talk about behaviors, medical needs, allergies, just all of the things that come along with kids. Make sure you sit down and have a very specific conversation with your employer. And again, have it in writing, have it in an email, have something you can refer back to. And even then, still know that there's nothing legally binding about that. At the end of the day, if they find another nanny through the time that you tell them you want to be a foster parent till later, you're going to have to know that might be your reality. And then you're going to have to be finding other employment because you can't just be a foster parent. You have to be able to sustain yourself and your foster kiddos without any kind of help from the state. So just know that you have to be employed. So that's something you really need to work with your employers about if that's something you want to do. Now, if your employers say no, that doesn't have to be the end of your foster care journey. There are other options. I told you that I ended up becoming a teacher. You can go find other jobs. You can find other nanny families, ones that are okay with you, bringing your foster kiddos. So know that's not the end of the world if they say no. Just know you're going to have to make some changes and some adjustments to become a foster parent. And maybe that means you have to delay your process a little bit, and that's okay. Like, it's better to be ready and have everything in place than to try to make it work when it's not, because that's just stressful. So just know that there's other possibilities out there if this isn't going to work for you. Now, let's say that your foster family is already okay with it. You've already got everything in writing. You feel very confident it's going to be fine. Then what? What is it really like being a foster parent and a nanny? So first thing I think about is scheduling. So your schedule as a foster parent is very long usually. As a nanny. Usually most people have nannies from like 40 to 50 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. It really just depends. But just know that you're going to have all those hours with all the kiddos you have in care. So however many kids you have with your nanny job, however many kids you have with foster kiddos, like that's a lot of kids together. So you need to think about like the realities of that situation. What's it going to be like having multiple infants or multiple toddlers or, a huge age gap? You need to think about how that's going to affect things, because if you get placed with a newborn baby, like that's very time consuming, their feeding schedule, their sleeping schedule, and that's going to affect the other kids in your care. And same thing, if you get an older toddler who's really rowdy and has a lot of hard behaviors, again, that's going to affect your job. And if you have your kid with you at work, you're not going to get a break. Especially if you're a single foster parent and go home and it's still just you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about if you want to do this and become a nanny and a foster parent. And I don't say this to discourage anyone at all. I have zero regrets about my decision. If I was still a nanny, I still would have done it. It's just, you just have to think about these things. There's just things to like consider and kind of maybe start working out ways and schedules that, these things could work. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is car seats. If you have several nanny kiddos already, are you going to have enough car seats to accommodate more children? I actually have a video on my channel called about how to fit 3 car seats across a small car, because that's what I had to do. I had a 3-year-old that I was nannying and a little baby I was nannying, and then I was going to get a little foster baby. And again, originally I was told that I was going to be allowed to bring him, so I was planning on this. So I had to arrange to get 3 car seats that would fit 3 across in my tiny little 4-door car. So that's another thing you have to think about. And again, foster care is also very time consuming, not just nannying, but actual foster care. Because when you become a foster parent, you suddenly have all of these court dates, all of these appointments, all of these, dentists, doctor, caseworker visits, all of these different things that you're going to have to work around. Now that's not to be discouraging. It's just to let you know the realities of the situation, and you're going to need to plan for this. So here's some tips that I've kind of learned along the way as I became a foster parent. So first, find a pediatric dentist and a pediatrician who accepts the foster care insurance in your area. Usually it's through Medicaid. And find one that's open on Saturdays. So you can have your appointment scheduled on Saturdays that aren't going to interfere with your work. Or if you have kind of a weird nanny schedule, like maybe you work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday or something, schedule it on the day you don't have work. So find an office that has hours and, availabilities at times that you have to work. Or don't have to work. So make sure to look those up prior to becoming a foster parent. You know, find a couple different pediatricians, find a couple different dentists, and have those ready to go. Also know that when your child comes into care, they may be very, very sick. So you might be thinking you're not even going to skip a beat and never even have to miss a day of work because you're a nanny and you can bring them with you. But if you have a kiddo who comes into care like mine, who came into care with like 106 fever and I had to immediately take him to the emergency room like this first night, and then of course he could not be around the other kids when he was contagious. He had croup and he was super contagious and couldn't be around my nanny kiddos. So just know, that could happen, and not even just on the first week of placement, but at any time during the placement. If you have to, again, that's something you need to discuss with your employers. Is that something you're going to have to miss work and miss pay for? Is that something you're allowed to bring in but keep them separate? These are things you have to discuss and know. And again, if your child's running 106 fever, you're going to end up being in the emergency room and you can't work anyway. So, and unfortunately, as a nanny, a lot of times there isn't really a backup or like a substitute or something that can come in there. So just know that could be a really big deal and even be something that eventually leads to you not being employed if it becomes a problem. So that's something you need to plan for. I would definitely recommend, if you could, to get a backup nanny. That's something that I wish I had done. If I could go back in time, if I could have found my employers a backup nanny and had them that kind of in place for when I got a placement or if something happened and I was sick or they were sick, because it was one of those horrible timing things. When I first got my first placement, I had been sick the week before with like this awful stomach flu, and then I finally was better, and then I got placed with him like that Sunday, and then he was super sick and then couldn't go to daycare or anything for that first week. So it ended up being like 2 weeks I was out, and my employers were like, hey, this is going to be a problem. Like, if you can't be here at work, like, we're going to have to find something else. So just know, like, that's something that can come up. So find a backup nanny, find those pediatricians and dentist office that are open on times that you're not working so it doesn't interfere with work, all of those appointments. Now, as far as caseworker visits and like the kiddos visits with their bio parents and all of those kinds of things, most of the time CPS will work with you. They might originally try to tell you that they won't work with you, but I've really never met one that won't if you are like adamant about it. Like, just tell them, this is my work schedule. I cannot transport to a visit at this time. If a kid needs to go to a visit, you need to pick them up and take them and bring them back. And that is something you can request. You can request for CPS or your agency to transport them. And again, that's something you can bring up ahead of time, being like, my work schedule is rigid, I can't change it. And even if you can, like, I honestly would recommend just like telling them that you can't, so that they can help you with those things and that's not going to affect your work. But again, maybe you can talk to your employers, maybe they're okay with you driving with their nanny kiddos in the car to the visit, dropping the kid off, and like, y'all going to McDonald's and coming back. There's ways you can work around this, but it's something you should think about ahead of time and get ready for so that it doesn't affect your employment and, anything like that when you start. So again, find ways that your kiddo can go to visits without having to work around your schedule. Find pediatricians and dentist office, be honest with your employers, tell everybody what's going on, and just really be rigid about it and know what you need and know what you want before you get into this, because you're already, going to be kind of crazy just starting to parent a new kid without all this other stuff going on. So have all this stuff lined up. Now, if you're someone who's not going to be bringing their child with them nannying and you're going to be doing the daycare route, go ahead and start finding the daycares that accept like the state subsidy that's going to be paid, or find the ones that are nearby, your work and all of that, and make sure you have all of that ready. And again, have a plan in place. If they're sick and can't go to daycare, what are you going to do? Are you going to have to take off and use a backup nanny? Are they going to allow you to bring them when they're sick? Or you have to take a personal day? Figure out a way of what's going to happen if that happens, because more than likely that will definitely happen. And especially if the kiddos in daycare, they are definitely going to get sick. So just know that off the get-go. All right. So those are just some kind of logistical things with foster care and being a nanny, some kind of scheduling issues. And again, just the realities of having that many kids at your work, and in your life, and how that's going to change and affect you. I've made lots of videos on how like lifestyle changes as far as being a single foster parent. But I'll just mention again, like, when you're a single foster parent, you come home from work, like, it's not just like, I'm going to chill on the couch and relax after a long day. Like, no, you're going to be mixing formula or making a toddler meal or playing with them and doing bath time in bed. And then even after that, like, it's not like a free for all. It's not like, oh, I'm suddenly going to go to a movie or go out and grab ice cream. Like, you can't. Like, they're the only person there. You can't leave. So just know your life will change, and it's 100% worth it. I cannot even, like, even my first week when everything was going so badly, like I told you, I had to take like those 2 weeks off, and like I was literally risking losing my job. And Darian was so sick, and I just met him, and like even with all of that going on, I still felt such peace about like my decision. And I felt like 100% it was the right thing to do. So just know, like, it might be a little crazy, and these are some things you can do to like make it a little better. But again, it's 100% worth it. It really is. It sounds hard and it sounds crazy, but like, I'm not like anyone like special. Like, I literally like grew up in a very normal household. You know, I went to college. I had to pay for it all myself. I have student loan debt. You know, I got out of college, couldn't find a job, became a nanny, was single, like living in like a 1-bedroom apartment. Like, I'm not rich. I'm not like super like amazing special and have all these amazing things. Like, I literally am just a regular person. And I did it. So I know like you can do it too. So if you needed like that little extra push and that little extra inspiration, like there it is. If you're a nanny and like are thinking about becoming a foster parent, like it can be done. And again, if you need to make a career change to like make this dream happen, you can. But I know several foster parents who have continued to be nannies and have done it for years and are still doing it and having a great time. And I think really the key to that is being prepared and finding a really good employer that's gonna employ you long term. So that's really my biggest tips for you. Obviously, I chose to become a teacher. I really started the process of becoming a teacher pretty soon after I got my son. For me personally, I just had a really hard time being at work raising someone else's baby and letting a baby who felt like mine be at daycare. Like that, to me, that was really, really hard. And even though my child still has to go to daycare because I'm a teacher and have to make ends meet, it's not as hard. I don't know why. Like teaching middle school, just it's not like I'm raising another baby. Like it was easier for me, and the hours are a little bit better. And again, like if my kid's sick or something, if I take off, there's a substitute who can come in, and it's not like going to be like career ending for me to like be gone. So for me, that was the right choice for me. But like again, there's so many foster parents out there that are nannies, like so many. Like I personally know so many. So it's definitely a common career choice that I've seen for people who become foster parents. So definitely know that it's possible and that you can do it. You just need to plan ahead for some of these things that come up. If you have any more questions about what it was like being a nanny and a foster parent, definitely leave them in the comments below. I love for videos to be a resource and for you guys to have a chance to ask questions and get them answered. And also, if you have any future video ideas that you would like to see, I've been reading a lot of your comments. A lot of you have been asking for a lot of different kinds of videos, so I'm trying to get those out for you guys. So if you have any more, definitely leave them in the comments below. And subscribe and like this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.